Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee meeting to order. I believe Councilman Valenzuela is on the phone. Are you there?
I am, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, great. First item is the minutes of the last meeting, May 8th, 2018. Any corrections, discussion, or motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Couldn't hear you, Madam Chairperson. Couldn't hear you.
Couldn't hear me? We just passed the minutes.
All the minutes except last week.
Yes, we are just now to the consent items, and I have cards on item 2. I will hear them first before we consider the consent. John?
Madam Mayor, council members, John Mendibles with the American Legion veteran. My only concern on item 2, ma'am, is the issue with the reduced cards. Those in reduced cards are also applicable to veterans who have service disabilities. And our issue is, are those applicable reduced cards still going to be available for purchase, and will they still be reduced?
Can you come up and answer, please? On item 2. Okay. Because we have cards.
Mayor, members of the subcommittee, the reduced fare program as it currently exists today, there are no plans to change that. So that would remain as is.
As is.
That's
what
fine
I thought,
with me,
but I
ma'am.
wanted to verify.
That's fine. That's all I have to ask. That's it.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
Olaf Thorn? You want to talk about 3? Okay.
Good afternoon. Madam Chairperson, honorable council members, ladies and those assembled. My name is Olaf Thorn. I'm a disabled veteran, lifelong resident of Phoenix, and user of the transportation system. I'm so happy that we're moving toward shade improvements. My recommendation is on west facing, covering the west side of the shade in the hot part of the afternoon. Okay, but still, so you can see the bus coming and everything, you know, and a little safety in case some drunk driver wipes out the bus shelter like they did at 27th Avenue in Glendale and killed them people. And I think they've put the bus shelter at Bell Road and Cave Creek back. That's a major place there, right below Cave Creek. And the shade's going to be in the right direction once you get her up, okay? An interesting thing which affected the bus driver there when I was on that bus, because that's my seat, you know, I paid for that seat and I'm going to have it, is some guy left the thing after going through the drive-through at Carl's Jr. and he went right in front of the bus, and he was spun or wasted, you know, and it was like morning, or it was afternoon. It doesn't matter. And then he was alongside the bus, cursing and giving the bus driver the finger, and drifted back and forth and almost hit the bus because he didn't have his both hands on the wheel, you know, and he didn't really care. But he was mad. Road rage. Throw him in jail. Okay, so the bus is happening. What's of concern is the bike program. What does one of those bikes cost to field? $2,000 or $1,200 a piece? One of them.
Well,
anyone know off the top of their head?
that's not on our agenda under these.
Yeah, no, it's right on the agenda, the bike program. But well, I offer my services to do a public service announcement because we have like 16 in a row at the downtown transit center, and they're basically unused because nobody can get the app to work right or even pay their dollar to use it for an hour. And I'll do the thing and show you how to work once I can work it, but I can't activate it to use the bike. And on the rapid thing, let's get from park and ride station to park and ride station, or get those folks going in and out of work to the light rail station. And I know where we've been, and I know where we are now. and I know where we're going. And I'm so grateful for the privilege of addressing the body again. And I'll see you when I can, okay? So,
back.
since we're all in agreement on where we're going, call the question. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, please respond in the double affirmative. Olaf Torn, disabled veteran, member of the Legion and the VFW. Again, ladies, Madam Chairperson, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I believe you have questions on
I
three?
have questions about item 3.
Go ahead.
My questions for item 3, I believe this is the design that the young students came and presented. Okay, and in that dialogue, I was told then that they would come and show me a prototype to demonstrate that those enhanced shade designs would actually provide shade. And I still waiting. Sorry.
Okay. We do have,
I don't know if you have a assimilation to, okay.
so this is a prototype of the collaborative project we had with Arizona State University. This one we call our standard design, and back in, I believe it was October, we were here in front of the subcommittee to get your approval of this standard design. And then today's action is to get to move forward with design on the enhanced design. We had 2 designs that came out of the ASU collaboration.
So this looks like there's a new bust shade item that went up on 7th Avenue and south of Indian School. And when the sun is at its peak, what happens in the morning, they are able to sit, but then in the evening as the sun is coming down, or not evening, really 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the sun is just beating on that shade. And so I ask, where's the shade? Because I see people in the afternoon just burning. And so that's why I want to be able to understand what shade it provides in the morning and what shade it provides in the evening, if
Okay.
any.
So the shelter you're referring to is a newer design than our tan-colored ones that you see most everywhere. That design was a Phoenix design that is it's larger than our old bus stops by 30%. But what you see with the prototype here, and what's different about this one is that you can stand on either side of that partition in the middle, so that depending on if it's east-facing or west-facing, or whichever direction that bus stop faces, you're able to stand on either side. And that's what the ASU students helped us with, is get to that type of design. So it's more flexible than our current ones, and will serve that purpose. And the enhanced shelter is a little dressier bus shelter, and has the same feature that you can stand on either side of those to get out of the sun.
Okay.
And that's what our goal was with this collaborative project. So we feel we're there.
And in that shelter, it's just meant to be standing.
No, they can, and it might be just a little hard to see. On the upper left photo, you can see that plate. That's
And you just pull it down?
you can lean up against that. And then on the lower photo, if you look in the lower part of that structure, there's a little bench right there. We're trying to go to individual seats versus benches as part of the design.
All right, well, thank you.
Madam Chairperson, before we leave that point, so it doesn't have to be any too fancy, it needs to be functional. The problem is the bus driver can't see after dark that you're there, like the structure at Scottsdale Road and Indian School. Okay, it's very handy and quite expensive and a lot more than you need, but the driver doesn't
Actually, I need you to come to the microphone.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm through. Functional, not too pricey.
Thank you.
So functional and not too pricey. And the bus driver was able to have a view, I guess, also to see who's standing at the bus.
Yes, and that's why they're perforated, basically, so there is ability for that visual.
Okay, brings us back for items 2 through 8.
Move items 2 through 8.
Second.
Okay. No further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 9 is for information only. Does anyone need more information on 9, 10, 11? Oh, I do have a card on that. You're right. John? You had a question or comment about 9?
Honorable Mayor, council members again, staff. Of course, we're going to have a special conference, a special meeting today at 3, I understand, concerning the light rail in South Phoenix. And since this does involve reports and updates with the ridership and with ability of the veterans in that South Phoenix area, the question has still not been carried or answered as to the 200 and some public meetings that were held. How many of them were actually held? Where is the accounting of that? And where's the meetings for the minutes for those meetings?
I don't know if it was 200, but I do know that staff has provided minutes and lists of people who signed in.
Yeah. The only reason for that, ma'am, is because City Council has just given a proposal to PAC Promise Arizona for $2-something million in order to be voracious on that same issue again with the South Central light rail and going into baseline. And since there may or may not have been an issue with the meetings and the minutes carried, perhaps some extreme guidelines need to be carried for this process going into the light rail with this contract with Promise Arizona, since there may have been some lacking in the past.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions on the information items? No. All right, brings us to item 13.
Okay, Mayor, members of the subcommittee, this item here is we're looking at a new and exciting new transit program. We're excited to bring this forward to the subcommittee and ultimately the city council. This is basically the first step in the process of developing a BRT, bus rapid transit program for the city of Phoenix. And Mike James is here as our BRT administrator to provide some information on this, and then we're also requesting your recommendation to the full city council to award the contracts for this BRT program. Mike?
All right. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Mayor Williams and members of the subcommittee, thanks for the opportunity to present this afternoon. As Ken mentioned, we're here to initiate the BRT program, which is really exciting, and specifically getting your recommendation towards awarding contracts for the planning, capital system development, and community engagement components of the project, as well as some preliminary engineering early work. And I would recall to you that this initial planning work includes that corridor evaluation that you requested to look at the data and make sure that we're bringing forward the best options for the city. So as you recall, Bus Rapid Transit, it's a new high-capacity transit system for our region with the major intent to be fast and reliable, providing service that's similar to light rail, but using bus on rubber tire technology. Again, some of the benefits of the Bus Rapid Transit is that it avoids some of that delay that we see in our local bus. So it provides a faster, more convenient service that's really meant to provide wider coverage for high-capacity transit throughout our large city. In the pictures here, you can see a couple of our neighbor cities. Speaking broadly, example of median running example from Las Vegas, as well as a curb running example. So kind of the things that we're going to be looking at as we're looking into the planning is what's the best fit for our city? What's the best for Phoenix? How is this going to work with our existing transportation system that we can really develop a multimodal transportation system that works for our unique conditions? You can see here the BRT features frequent service with limited stops. With limited stops, it can travel faster and get you where you need to go more quickly. It features transit signal priority that can identify that bus and move it through intersections more quickly. It include peak period or dedicated bus lanes, enhanced stations, off-board fare payment, all-door boarding, all things that can help the passenger get on that bus and get that bus moving down the road quickly. Additionally, unique branding of vehicles and stations is important to really identify as a premium service throughout the city. You can see in the picture here a pretty good example from Cleveland, Ohio, with their BRT system showing level boarding. It makes it easier to board the buses. They have fare vending machines, so you pay ahead of time. There's 3 doors. You can enter any of the doors. You don't have to go through the front door. So it just makes the whole boarding process quicker. So we wanted to step back a minute and talk about corridor identification in T2050. Back in 2014, the city identified a committee, which we'll just call Coffee Pot for short, to really look at the investments that should be made in the T2050 plan. And so they looked at population, employment, transit ridership, activity centers like schools and universities, and the transit needs of different user groups throughout the city to identify investments for the T2050 plan. So that committee identified 75 miles of BRT, 3 east-west corridors, as well as 2 north-south corridors. Per your direction, we've been asked, as I mentioned earlier, to take a look at the data. It's been 5 years. Are there any changes in the community that we need to assess and look at as we're looking at bringing forward the best network for the city? We anticipate that there may be some corridor changes that we bring forward. And I also wanted to mention, as we're doing that early evaluation, kind of the bigger picture is to bring back to you a BRT implementation plan. That's a comprehensive look with an overall map, with the corridors defined, service and performance measures, program timeline, a funding and finance plan that's all supported by a robust community engagement program. So that's really kind of the work that we're going to be doing over the next 1.5 to 2 years. So the contracts that we're bringing forward, the first is for our planning, capital system development, and community engagement, is a 3-year, $3 million contract with HDR Engineering. We also are bringing forward 3 preliminary engineering early work contracts to support that planning effort. So these 3 teams are going to be working to develop alternatives that the planning team will then evaluate as part of developing that BRT implementation plan. I would be remiss not to talk a little bit about the consultant experience that we have. Not only do we have really 4 great teams with a lot of local experience, they've also teamed up and also bring national experience from some of the best BRT systems that have been implemented across the country. I've listed a few of the cities, but we've got some great talent working on this. And the consultant and engineering design community is really excited to get started working on this. So next steps, we'll be taking this to the full council for approval next week. Following that, we anticipate a consultant notice to proceed and starting the work in July. At that point, for the next several months, we'll be developing inventory, analysis, doing some scenario testing, developing our community engagement plan and getting that started, as well as doing that early assessment of the data and the corridors. In November, our consultant team is going to come together in what we're calling a network workshop, and we're going to look at those scenarios. We're going to work through the program and really define what do we think that BRT network looks like for Phoenix. What are those performance measures? what are some of the key stakeholders to think about some of these options and really have a good, robust discussion to refine what we think is best to bring back to the City Council. At that point, we'll then bring it back to you for review, consultation, and direction. So again, our recommendation is we're seeking to award 4 contracts to initiate the BRT program. Thank you.
Discussion?
No, not yet.
Thank you. I know you're starting the process, but could you give me an example, a street that might work for this type of rapid system, or maybe give us examples in other cities, like?
Yeah, I think a good example to talk about is that shows a couple different configurations. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, it's interesting because their premier BRT system identified a center swath just for the BRT transit, but then when it transitions to the Strip, it moves into a median running option. So, in looking at a lot of corridors in different places, really you kind of have to look at what are the needs or what are the desires of those areas and what's really going to work with providing access to that system, the overall transportation needs. So, we're looking at all the corridors that were identified, and most of the corridors in Phoenix, either 5 or 6 lane sections. Sometimes they're offset. That's a little challenging because we'll have 3 directions in one and 2 in the other. And so if you were to do a true dedicated lane, you're going to have an imbalanced arterial. So those are some of the things we really need to dig in and see how are we going to address this. The other thing that I would say for Phoenix is, when it comes to congestion, that's really isolated a lot of times at those peak periods. So it's really, what can we do in those time periods to make sure that the bus is not stuck in that congestion? So, there's been a lot of past work on some of the existing corridors, Baseline. I know a couple of years ago, NACTA was here. They were looking at Thomas Road. So really the solution is going to be on what do we think are the best opportunities. We'll look at ridership. We'll look at activity centers served. We'll look at how does it connect to our light rail investments. That's important. How does this connect to some of our rapid connections in the outer parts of the city? So there's a lot to consider. But as far as like the arterials, we definitely have room to work.
Do you have questions?
I do. I don't know which slide it is, but I think it's HDR that's supposed to be doing community engagement.
Yes.
Can you explain to me what type of community engagement they'll be, or what does that look like?
Sure.
And I guess why I'm asking about this is because light rail has a whole piece of community engagement, and it's a group of people within that scope. And so I noticed that they're doing the planning, the capital system development, and the community engagement. And why wasn't it? Is it a team?
Yes. Councilwoman Pastor, yes, it is actually a team. We have members from Torres Multicultural that are also supporting the HDR team, as well as a couple other teams that are also supporting the community engagement. One of the approaches that we are looking to do is we want to do some initial surveys and stakeholder outreach before we actually develop the initial plan. One of the things that we think is really important in the BRT program is reaching out to specific neighborhoods and neighborhood groups, particularly because BRT is really not a well-known commodity here in Phoenix. So we want to reach out to those, probably what I would say, smaller neighborhood groups that are established to get them informed, educated, understand what this is, so that they can bring informed decisions forward as we're looking for that in the process.
And I'd like to also add that in the HDR contract, nearly a third of the budget for that is actually focused on the community engagement part of the work they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So can I make a request that at the council formal meeting that we have under HDR, who are all the groups that are associated with this project?
Absolutely, we can send that for
Similar
you.
to the light rail.
Absolutely.
The other question I have is you mentioned get them informed and educated. When I hear that, due to the fact that we're in the middle of this light rail piece, get them informed and educated that there has been a decision made. So I would like to know if there's been a decision made regarding where BRT is supposed to go, or are we starting the process to really, are we starting the process looking at the data that was looked at 20, whatever, 5 years ago, and now we're starting to relook at it and see what the dynamics or the changes of the dynamics that have happened?
Yes, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, we're absolutely relooking at everything. And in terms of educating and informing the public, what we mean by that is educating them on what BRT is, what it means, what it looks like. So they, again, to Mike's point, that BRT is new to the valley here, and most folks haven't experienced it if they haven't been to some of the places around the country and the world that have it. So they understand. I mean, folks understand light rail now because it's been here for nearly 10 years. But BRT being a brand new type of transit service, I think educating and informing them of what BRT is and the different options, because as Mike kind of touched on, BRT corridors are not like a one-size-fits-all. There's different aspects of BRT that you could implement within a corridor, just depending on what makes sense there. And so we want to make sure the folks in the community understand what BRT can mean and look like, so that when they give us their feedback in terms of what they want in specific corridors and areas, that they understand what bus rapid transit really is.
Yeah, I would add, when we've talked to the few people that we have talked to about this, there's a misunderstanding that our rapid system is bus rapid transit, and that's really express commuter service. So there's just a lot of education of like, what are these different service types that we're talking about?
Councilwoman Stark?
Thanks. I guess I'm trying to, so if you have the BRT go through, what about, and it has limited stops, I mean, would you still have another bus come down? I mean, I'm trying to see how everything fits together. Maybe that'll be a part of the community engagement, is educating us more.
Councilmember Stark, yes, in most cases, there's really kind of two ways that BRT can run. It can run kind of like we run light rail on Central Avenue, where it has an underlying local bus service, or there's some places where BRT basically has eliminated the local bus route, and then they've also eliminated some of the stops, but they're basically going from a quarter-mile stops to third of a mile stops. So you walk a little bit further, but the bus stops a lot, and the trade-off is that the bus is a little bit faster, but there's fewer stops. So those are the types of things that we really need to investigate to see what really fits for these different corridors.
I have two more questions. Piggybacking off of that, why would we need to go through this whole process and call it a BRT when, to me, how I'm hearing it and interpreting it is it's just another, we can determine now if we're going to hit 7th Avenue and this bus will hit 7th Avenue, cross over to, or hit 27th Avenue and then cross over, and we could identify a transit or a bus saying these are the stops that these certain numbers stop at, and it's moving. And versus, I guess, investing all this money, and to me, it's just identifying. Maybe it's miles. I don't know what it is, how you identify it, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, so what you've described is really kind of a limited stop type of service. The differences with BRT is that it also includes transit signal priority to increase the speed through intersections, as well as the location of stops and level boarding and pre-fare payment, so that really by boarding all 3 doors, the average boarding time could be 12 seconds versus maybe 30 or 40 seconds. So it's really all about making sure that that vehicle is shortening the amount of time that it's stopped at stations and making sure that it continues to move like you described.
And I'd add to that, additionally, investing in the sort of doing the study and the planning work. Also, with bus rapid transit, there is a potential substantial amount of infrastructure improvement as opposed to what Mike was talking about with the limited stop bus service, where you could just have fewer stops and things like that. Where with bus rapid transit, if and where we would implement a full BRT, there's a lot of infrastructure required with that. And so we want to make sure that we do a complete, thorough study to identify where that makes sense and where we can actually do it and where the community wants it. So that's important for us to learn those types of things as we work through this process of implementing a BRT program so that we make the right long-term investments when it comes to the actual infrastructure.
My final question. I would like to know if BRT could work down Central.
BRT work down Central?
Yeah, I would like to know if BRT could be an alternative to light rail down in South Central.
Well,
I'll address it. Well, in part of Valley Metro's alternative analysis, BRT was looked at. Before we implement light rail anywhere, Valley Metro goes through an alternative analysis process that looks at potential corridors as well as mode of service. And through the evaluation process that they did, it was determined that light rail was the best mode for that corridor. In terms of canopy, I would imagine BRT could go just about anywhere, but does it make sense, I think, is the question. I think that's kind of where Valley Metro landed with their assessment, is that light rail was the ultimate best service for that corridor according to their evaluation.
And that was Valley Metro that determined that.
They did an alternatives
All right.
analysis study.
Before, when we've talked about this, it's been a dedicated lane. And part of this community engagement, I think it's very important if you're going to eliminate a lane, both sides, that the community fully understands you have just narrowed the street. Mm-hmm. And you have to study what the impact will be on the automobiles and sidewalks and bike lanes, because it's a package deal anymore. And I have real concerns, considering what we're experiencing, that the community really understands.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And how they reach out to the community, I think, is extremely important. You just can't hit a couple neighborhoods. I think you need to work with the council people so they can put it out, broadcast it. It has to be social media, whatever, so that we have true engagement and full conversations. And I would suggest you do lots of visuals, perhaps a video from one of the other cities that has it, so that you can show a clear example of what they can expect and what will happen on that street. Because take Thomas. You tried to take Thomas in the morning. It's a real challenge. And that's with full lanes. And I want to know what's going to happen when you narrow the street. And I think that's extremely important before we put any money into any type of implementation.
Absolutely, Mayor. You make great points, and that's exactly why we are hiring consultants who do bus rapid transit throughout the country to help us through this process to answer some of those questions and figure those things out and make sure that where we make the investments, they're the right investments for the locations and the corridors where we do it.
Which brings me to the second item, preliminary engineering, early work. Why do you need that if you haven't gone through the first process?
so the preliminary engineering early work is really to do some early engineering assessment of conditions that will form planning decisions, as well as we are going to develop a whole series of alternatives that we want the HDR team to evaluate. HDR is going to be doing some of those, and we want the PE teams also to engage in some of those design alternatives so that we can take advantage of the wealth of experience and knowledge that this team is bringing us. So really, we just want to have an early check. We want to make sure there's not any fatal flaws on engineering type things. So when we're looking at, bridges or railroad crossings, major utilities, we're going to take a look at some of those things throughout our networks and make sure we're not stepping into something that could ultimately be a fatal flaw.
And what if the community says, I don't want it?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be considered, weighed, and brought forward with a comprehensive recommendation or suggestion to the council. So we've heard from both the CTC as well as you that to make sure that we have a robust community education and engagement component, we actually have scoped a video and all the social media things that you're talking about. In fact, about half of our team is over here listening, so that is great. So we are thinking that this really needs to be a robust effort. As Ken mentioned, about $800,000 of that $3 million contract is towards that community component.
And I would just emphasize the mayor and members of the subcommittee, the council, the subcommittee and the council are going to be involved every step of the way. And so as these plans are developed, the council needs to give the approval before any implementation happens, any identification of any corridors or recommendation to the subcommittee, to the city council for approval before any of that can move forward.
Councilwoman?
So I have a struggle with this at this moment, because right now we're dealing with light rail. And I have a struggle with it because preliminary engineering early work means that you are doing early work on roads that either have been identified or going to be identified. Then what will happen is when community engagement gets involved and says, I don't want it to go down this way, then we'll be told, well, preliminary engineering's already happened and this is what we're doing and so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I understand and I see exactly where you're coming from. Mike, can you explain when we expect that preliminary engineering early work would even begin?
Yeah, so the concept was that we would bring them on at the beginning too, because we're going to be developing inventory and analysis for this workshop in November. And so we understand that, and we've been directed to look at more corridors than were identified in the T2050 map. So the planning team is going to take a wide look at ridership and population, employment, growth, all those things that we would look at. And we're going to be engaging also with the PE teams. Really are bringing local knowledge of many of the corridors, because a lot of them worked here on different projects within our city, as well as national expertise of folks on their team that are bringing expertise from these other national cities. So the idea is that at this workshop, we're being informed by our full team. We're working through scenarios. We certainly are going to be inviting any of our boards, commissions, you as well, to participate in elements of this. So they're not really starting the design, but they are developing alternatives to be considered. And those design alternatives really can help us bring information to you so that you can make informed decisions on cost. What are the riderships? Are these the right roads? We're not looking to start design and say, oops, we got you in any way.
And you're talking about the CTC, right? As the committee.
What group?
Oh, yeah, so the CTC, yeah, primarily, yes.
A lesson I have learned recently, yes, we have gone through this, and people supported 2050. But now we are coming to the realization that there wasn't a full understanding of implementing the plans. And I am concerned that we're going to be spending the extra money. I think we ought to do the community engagement. I have no problem with that. I guess before I want to go very far down this road is I want to know their support for it. And I also want to recognize the fact that this council membership keeps changing. And although we may have approved it, what, 2 years ago? I want to make sure there's still support before we actually proceed. It just makes me nervous, and I don't want to upset the community, and I want them to fully understand that the object is to move traffic better, to more people on public transportation, less cars on the road. So there's a real purpose behind it, but change is difficult. And we are putting a lot of changes in very quickly throughout this city, and I want everyone to have a full understanding of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and hopefully have their support. So I'm willing to let you go with the first one. I'm not supporting the early work effort at this time. I want to hear back from the community that there's real support. So that could come back. I don't think if it didn't come back till the 1st of September, that gives you opportunity this summer to hold community meetings and get an idea, working with council people on if there's public support and they fully understand it. I don't know if you give them a test at the end or what, but I'm kidding. Then we could bring the second part back. And that's just me. I'm not speaking for the other council member.
This summer, I mean, normally if everybody that lives in Arizona knows that summer break is July and everybody leaves July and goes to San Diego or wherever else is cooler up north. So I would be very cautious about doing community engagements over the summer, specifically in July. So that's just my caution.
Did you want to come up and speak?
Yeah, it's gonna take me forever to get there and back.
Oh, we got time. Go ahead. Do we have a microphone we can take to
I
him?
couldn't hear Mario because he was faced away. This will be in
Well,
the
bring you a
minutes.
microphone.
Okay, or set one right in the middle there, so it's not partial to those people, equal opportunity.
He's got a lot of alternative development at the same time.
Crazy.
Thank you, Mario, especially for your submission on the bus shelter. What's the view? What's my view? Because if you're going to bring a high-priced engineering firm on this, here's how you know if they're ripping you off. So this may be a 30-year outlook forecast. Ow, sorry. 30-year forecast, okay? Where we're going. What we need is the way our interstate and state routes are connected. We get a lot of money for just a little investment here. Don't build a highway that goes, or a bridge that goes nowhere. We've already covered that. I like what you said there, ma'am. Thank you. So here's the view. You need a crisscross with a light rail system. A criss and a cross, okay, north-south, and place that station wherever you want. I suggest in the vicinity of the airport light rail transfer station, about 44th and Washington, okay? Easy. Crisscross. So then, after you get the light rail system extended as far as you want to, out past the Glendale Stadium and maybe out past Apache Junction, wherever it's going, a crisscross. And let's take it down in a stage to Ahwatukee Chandler, same stop. Out east, North Chandler, out west, Ahwatukee. And leave her there and see how everybody likes it. And then get one going north-south wherever you want to. Okay, wherever you want to. Probably, if you can, not 19th Avenue where she bends, okay? Where she bends, but vicinity of I-17, 27th Avenue, north-south. Then eventually, we're looking at Cordis Junction, Prescott, okay, Prescott Valley, and then before you know it, 30 years maybe, we're looking at Flagstaff and Tucson, same north-south, one criss, one cross. And if your engineering firm don't say that, then you didn't get your money's worth, okay? Yes, ma'am. Also, police are cooperative now, and it's fairly safe to use the rail system, except coming back from the D-backs game on the 1st of June, slightly before midnight, at the Montebello Transit Center, where the light rail and the bus service interconnects. I was coming back from the D-backs game, and I was beaten and robbed badly, and I didn't lay a hand on that young man, but he had the drop on me, you know, and he stole my credit card and wallet, but he didn't get my cell phone, and eventually did get the credit card shut off as quickly as possible because I had to submit this police report, and I don't know why the response time was so poor there, because they're back slinging dope there again, you know. But let's throw those guys in jail, and I think their Interpol and FBI is involved with that because they use the credit
I think
card.
you're off the subject.
It's okay. No, ma'am. There's been a lot of wasted time here, ma'am. I think you should use the system and become familiar with it, and I request a city council day at the transit, but don't let them know you're coming or the fix will be in. The buses are running better. The buses are running better. Okay, big Cadillacs that they see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thanks so much, Mario and John, especially. John, what's your name, sir? Thanks, John.
Mario?
Yes, Mayor, members of the subcommittee, I was able to get some clarification on the preliminary engineering work. One of the things, as we discussed in the presentation, that's so important that we get started on immediately is this analysis of the alternatives. And so we know what corridors were identified on the T2050 ballot, but that analysis of alternative corridors is something that we know has been really important to the subcommittee and to the council to take a look at that. The preliminary engineering work that we're talking about here is a key part of that alternatives analysis and looking at that. So that's one thing I want to make sure that we can do a full analysis of those alternatives and bring in the right people that need to be involved in that. And maybe one of the things that if the subcommittee is comfortable with doing so is making a recommendation on that scope and limiting it to that initial analysis of the corridor alternatives. And so that would need to be brought back to the council before anything else happens with it.
Let me ask you a follow-up to that. When you hold those public meetings, are you going to make them aware there could be alternative corridors?
I mean, how are you going to determine that? The community engagement would be the one that would determine, or going out to the community and say, these are the possibilities of the streets that we are looking at. And then you would get community engagement at that moment and then determine from there, and then go back out again and say, oh, we've narrowed it to here. And if you get pushed, you know, how do you?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think one of the community engagement is a huge, most important piece of this really in terms of the information we're gathering. But part of really what we're talking about is having the right information. There's a lot of technical information about the way each corridor is set up and the cross sections of the streets, the spacing, and all of those very technical pieces of that. And I think that's the part that we would need some assistance from the engineers to help us with. It's really all about data gathering and making sure that we have the full extent of the information to inform the community, to inform the council as we move forward.
So what it sounds like you're doing is you're gathering, or the group will be gathering information about possible corridors or additional streets?
Yeah, so there's really kind of two levels, like you identified, there's kind of two levels of community engagement. The first is the overall network and the overall city. So that's where, you know, we need to do some inventory analysis of not just the 6 corridors that were on the T2050, but additional corridors. Similar to, you know, other high capacity or light rail planning, if you do something on one street, it has an impact on what happens on the adjacent streets. So that's why when Mario says, you know, we're not just looking at one corridor, we're looking at several corridors. In fact, you know, one of the benefits of the timing of this work is Meg's also doing a regional transit framework study looking at the opportunities for high capacity transit. When they look at this, when they look at our city in their study, they're identifying high capacity on McDowell, Thomas, Indian School, Camelback, all these streets. So we know that we need to take a look at all of these streets and see what's going to work, not only just for capturing riders, but as far as the overall multimodal network for moving cars, for moving bikes, people, peds, freight, etc. So there's an outreach level that's citywide for the whole program, and then when we get some feedback on, hey, what's really our best opportunities, we start moving into those corridor levels, and that's where I'm talking more specifically about the neighborhood groups and the people along those corridors. You really have to do the outreach in those two levels. One is broad for the entire city, looking at multi-corridor, and then we'll work to narrow that down to specific corridors based on that earlier input and input from the individual corridor stakeholders.
Sullivan?
Yeah.
Can we use an example? Let's say Thomas Road.
Okay.
If we identify that as a route for the BRT program, would the early engineering work be the group looking at how that would look, how it would be designed?
Yeah, so we would ask them, I think we're scoped for them to look at 3 different alternatives on how that could work within the corridor. So, for example, we could say, what does this look like if the center part of the city is running in a dedicated only lane? We might ask them, what does this look like if we're running in the curb lane? Or we might say, okay, what's a hybrid? Where can we make targeted investments so that a bus doesn't get clogged in congestion, but it's not necessarily, it may not be giving it a full dedicated lane. So it's really kind of developing these different alternatives for that corridor, for those stakeholders to look at within that corridor.
Okay, and I'm gonna push on that because that's you looking at that lens of how to move this BRT and the impact or on a regional scale.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to know is what's the impact on the community and what's the impact on Thomas, where there's a bunch of homes on Thomas, and what's the impact and the noise level and all the dynamics that's going to change Thomas. So you're looking at this higher level and looking down, and I'm looking at the level that the people that get impacted by it. And so how does that, both worlds come together to then determine what is the best for the city and moving people?
So we would in consideration of that, we would develop evaluation criteria that when we have these alternatives, the HGR team will develop criteria on, okay, where are we potentially impacting having to change curbs? Where are we modifying driveways? How many driveways are we modifying to put in stations? How many signal intersections are we changing? How many access from neighborhood streets are we impacting? So we'll develop measures to get at those issues, and we'd be happy to work with you on specifics of those to identify what those are, because what we want to do, for example, is understand what those impacts along that specific corridor and be able to compare those with maybe 7 or 8 other corridors as well. So we can understand, what are the different impacts of making some significant decisions for the future of our transportation.
Well, I'm more comfortable with that explanation than I was before, because implement makes me nervous.
Yeah.
If you're looking at multiple potential candidates for this, for BRT, then I understand why you have to have that examined. I guess I am comfortable enough that I would support this going forward if we're very clear on that point, that nothing is implemented, there is no plan in concrete until it has been fully vetted and presented to the full council.
Absolutely, Mayor Williams, and that's the intent of doing this extensive work, to make sure we vet from a technical perspective as well as a community input perspective, and then bring that back through the CTC, through the subcommittee, as well as city council in terms of what will specifically be implemented with the program.
Did you have any more comments?
You know, as just a side note, could you come maybe visit with me and explain like what happened in Cleveland, some of the other cities where they've implemented this? I just want to get a better level of comfort as to what they had to do in those cities to make it work. Because the one in Cleveland, very interesting, but I wonder what the costs were to put all this in, just before we go up, jumping off on a new adventure. Because I get concerned because I think having transit's important, but I just want to better understand the cost. And given that, you know, there's all kinds of new technology out there, and Uber and Lyft, I just want to see how it all kind of blends together from a cost perspective. So if you could get some information,
Yeah, we have a briefing paper we can come and share.
that'd be
with you.
perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And get educated a little bit more.
Mayor and subcommittee, I would say if it helps, we can meet with each of the offices and then bring this back at a future meeting. That way we can make sure to allow for all of your questions to be answered. It looks like there are more questions and there are more concerns that you have, and we want to make sure that we fully address all of those before moving any of this forward. It's very important, as Mike explained, this is new to us. We haven't done this before in Phoenix. We haven't done this before in the Valley. And so if that's something that the subcommittee is inclined to do, we can work with that.
Councilman Valenzuela, are you still on the phone?
I am, Mayor.
Do you have questions?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. We have a card. Ms. Baker?
Thank you, Mayor. Velda Williams, Diane Barker. I'm in District 7. I'm a user of transit, and I'd just like to share with you that there's nothing new for us that use transit and have loved getting around the valley. I've lived in 7 cities in Maricopa County, which is the fastest growing county. I've shared with the mayor now that she's with MAG, will be going to the MAG meetings. Air quality is a regional problem. Congestion's a regional problem. Phoenix has half of the vote at Maricopa County. Phoenix has been the designated grant recipient for years from the federal government. I want the federal government to be involved here because that is a place where not only are citizens, people, to be heard, but we're supposed to be considered. In all due respect to the gentleman that's sitting there and other people, this is citizens. Citizens, we're not stupid. We know what works and what doesn't work. We're out there. I'll be out there Thursday in 112. I challenge anybody and this gentleman to do this. We know this. When Neil Mansky was here, he said the ideas for transit come from 30 to 50-year-old non-transit user males. The suggestions come from the writing public. You need to turn that around, folks. And rather than having them tell you the scoping is going to be so much, it's also new BRT. I've been taking rapid buses in the valley since I came here in the 80s, and I wondered, what do we know being on here that the rest of the congestion didn't know? What it is, we didn't know. We knew what was working. Some of us cared about our pocketbooks. Some of us cared about the air. And some of us weren't politically bought. So the bottom line is in all of this, we have a brand new, beautiful Burton Bar, College Depot that has computers. Let's make this transparent rather than the collecting like MAG does and the city does. All these ideas, then they decide, eeny, meeny, miny, this fits in with our scope. We spontaneously have people at the computers. It is an open forum. What do they have, 60 computers there? You've probably been there. It's spontaneous, the ideas. They said, and I go and have a Happy Meal at McDonald's, but they said McDonald's got big because you know what? They didn't identify the messenger. They took messages from, they were blind on the message, and the best messages came. And believe me, if you want to dance, you need to do it.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to continue.
No, discussion's over on this one.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
So,
I move to continue.
Second.
okay, the motion is to continue this until you can brief us all in depth and bring it back this fall. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Who's the guy on the phone?
Councilman Valenzuela.
Thank you.
Do we have any cards from the public? We do not. Is there any future agenda items? I'm afraid to ask. Hearing none, we stand adjourned.